Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of EN. I am excited today to bring to you podcast on entertainment news in the entire world. ENN comes from the film Exiles, and we call ourselves Exiles because we have already been banished. We've already been canceled. So everything you're going to hear from us today is coming from people with nothing to lose. It's going to be the truth. It's going to be unadulterated. It's going to be unvarnished, untainted, unbiased. And without further ado, on this episode of Theater, I'm going to be joined by one of the greatest people talking about anywhere. It's my pleasure, drum roll, to invite Christian.
You did it again. It's impossible for me to live up to that. I can't. I can't live up
Hey,
to it.
only the best for you. Only the best for you.
Right
So
back
so
at
how,
you.
how are you doing? How are you doing in general?
Doing all right. It's it's post Thanksgiving hangover in the United States right now. So I hope everybody out there had a great one. If you're listening to us in the states, but hey, it's kind of scary time still. 2020 still the hits keep on coming when it comes to COVID. So we're just trying to stay safe and healthy. But I am doing all right, and so's my family. How about you?
I'm doing great. Um, as great as can be in 2020, but that's why ENN is here for the people, and we're going to just try to add a little ray of sunshine to these dark winter days,
I
so to
like it.
speak. All right, and here's our rundown of topics for the day. We don't have many topics to talk about. This one's going to be kind of a brief ENN episode, and we're just going to talk about the bombshell news that dropped from Warner Media about how they're gonna bust and just decimate the previous agreement that they had with theaters. And then we're going to talk about Wonder Woman's runtime for the film is coming out in a couple of weeks. All right. So without any more wasting time, without any more jaywalking and loitering, let's get right into it. So today, Warner Media announced that the entire anticipated 17 film 2021 Warner Brothers motion picture slate will be released
Hmm.
on HBO Max the exact same day as it's released in theaters. Like, this is unprecedented. This has been done for some films here and there, very rarely. Even during this time of COVID, it's not something that has been a very frequent occurrence, but it's totally out of left field and such a ballsy move for a studio to come out and say their entire slate for an entire year will drop on their streaming service the exact same day as it drops in theaters. Never been done before. I'm blown away, and I can't wait to react to this. So before we get into this, let me just run down the films that audiences are going to be able to watch on HBO Max in the US day one. So there's a movie called The Little Things, which I don't know much about. Judas and the Black Messiah. I think that's an awards contending
Hmm.
drama about the Black Panthers. Tom and Jerry, which we talked about the trailer the other day, and we actually said that it would be better to just go on streaming because we weren't too thrilled with the quality that we're seeing. Then Godzilla vs Kong, the massive tentpole that's been waiting and been delayed a little bit. Then Mortal Kombat. Then those who wish me dead, which I don't have too much knowledge about. Then the third Conjuring movie, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which is like a blockbuster, big budget horror movie. In the Heights, Space Jam: A New Legacy from LeBron James, The Suicide Squad from James Gunn, Reminiscence. Hold up, what? What? Remin- what? We're gonna talk more about that. Then Malignant, Dune, The Many Saints of Newark, um, and I'm guessing one of the saints is Christian, which is also from New
Wow.
Jersey. Um, King Richard, Cry Macho, and from my favorite franchise of all time, barring DC, uh, Matrix 4. All right, so those are the 17 films. And just the fine print is that these are only going to be available in the United States. So the HBO Max, this model is only going to be available to HBO Max subscribers in the United States and only for the first 31st days of the release. After that, it will revert to the regular theatrical exclusionary model until that time lapses. Then it's going to go on all PVOD outlets. So, first off, instant reaction, Christian. Well, you're as blown away as I was. And do you have all your thoughts together? What do you think?
You're you're right. The first thing is unprecedented. It's this is but to get political for a second, and anybody who's listening could get pissed at me for getting political. It's a it's a testament to how bad the United States has failed in our COVID-19 experiment here, if that's what
Mm,
you want to call it, because it has accelerated trends that were coming anyway. We've talked about it for the past 40 episodes of ENN, that these trends were coming. But the fact that theaters have had to remain closed, I live in the Northeast, so we got hit very hard at the beginning. So that this kind of stuff, it's almost like this kind of stuff had to happen, right? Because we're not going out, we're not going to out to dinner, and we're not taking our families places, and we're not going to theme parks, and we're not whatever. All that stuff is just frozen, and the feeling is that it's going to be frozen at least until the middle of 2021, with any sort of full normal not coming back till 2022. So
mm,
at that rate, that's just telling the world like you guys just screwed up so bad
yeah,
that this is what we have to
yeah.
do. I'm with you, man. It's an unprecedented move. But you know what? When you take a guy like Kalar and his background, especially his technology background, and the fact that he's always very forward thinking, and HBO, ATT, I guess we should say, is the parent company, pushing for direct to consumer, man, this is a shot across the bow. And my last instant reaction before I throw it back to you is, even though I'm a Netflix subscriber and I'm a Disney subscriber, which also means I'm a Hulu subscriber and I have Amazon Prime, I also have HBO Max. And HBO Max with this suddenly launches itself into the category and the conversation of having the best value proposition of the
Mm-hmm,
entire group.
mm,
Because now for 30 days, you have an exclusive window basically to watch it at home for less than the cost of a ticket to bring you, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and your kids with you to go
and
to the theater.
parking and
Right.
food and concessions.
Right. It's so I think you have to start having a conversation. If you're thinking value, and the big question we've all had is like how many eyeballs can people get? How many streaming services can every family afford every month? What's the limit? People, I think, have to start thinking, because you think HBO, so there's a branding issue that we can get into later in the pod. But right now, you say, well, HBO has adult fare, comic book fare, family fare, comedies. They have everything, right? Now we're going to be getting like modern releases that should be going into theaters. So I think their value proposition suddenly skyrockets. I think.
I completely agree with you. It's a whole new paradigm. It's a whole new ball game. I think that the first thing that came to mind was, for me, I was happy. I was happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I live in the UK, so I don't have the same access that US customers are gonna have,
Right.
but I do want to see HBO Max do well. Um, I am someone who's a big advocate of competition.
Mm-hmm.
I think competition is good for everyone, especially audiences. Audiences are going to win out from this because the reason why HBO Max had to make this drastic step is because they have to compete with the Disney Pluses, the Amazon Prime TVs, with the Apple TVs,
Mm-hmm.
with the Netflixes of this world.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and a lot of people, are some people are confused as to, the effect of this, or, oh, I love cinema, and this is just going to be more choice. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go to theaters and you feel um, that, you know, it's safe enough for you, then that's your prerogative. You can
Right.
do that. You can go
Right.
watch things in cinemas. But some people, either one, don't want to take the risk, or two can't take the risk because of their medical conditions, and so now they have the opportunity to do this. And in terms of the effect on the wider industry, I although Warner Media is saying that this is just for 2021,
Hmm.
I think that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. I think that this is forward ever, backward never. I
Oh
really
yeah,
do.
dude,
I
how do
really
you give this to people and then take it away at the end of 2021? That's rough because I think this would become part, at least in the U.S. I don't know what's going to happen internationally, but I think that that would become part of why you sign up for HBO Max in the first place, and then all of a sudden you pulled that away at the end of 2021.
yeah. They're
I
gonna
don't think
have
so, but yeah.
yeah. If they do that, people will drop the streamer.
Hmm. Right,
Like
right,
like you would better have had at that point a crazy release schedule.
right,
Um,
right.
to, but also I think that other studios are going to have no choice but to to adopt this same model.
Hmm.
They're gonna have no choice. But the interesting thing I was thinking about that is that HBO Max at this point is the most expensive of all the streamers.
True, true.
So for them, even though this is going to be great value for customers, they can recoup a lot of those costs with new signups, with people who sign up or pay the monthly subscription. But for people like Disney,
Hmm.
who are at a lower rate, for what other studios, whether Universal is going to do their thing, I don't think that they will see the benefits that HBO Max is going to see. Did I explain that properly? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you did because for at least in the United States, HBO Max has killed off its week-long free trial. So that means if you want to watch Wonder Woman, Matrix 4, Dune, all the movies we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes, you do have to pay at least for 1 month of the $15, service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another part of it as well. So you're right. It's tougher if you were to pull something like this off as a Disney, let's say. It would be tougher to recoup your costs when you're charging $6.99 a month. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, by the way, lock themselves in at the yearly rate. So you've already, what are you going to do? You're going to tell those people, sorry, halfway through the year, I'm going to suddenly jack your price up. I wouldn't put it
Yep.
past Disney to do that, but I'm just saying that you might have a bit of a revolt on your hands if you did something like that. Meanwhile, HBO Max can say, look, we're telling you what we are for $15 a month. We are telling you what we are. You
Mm-hmm.
make the decision if this is value to you. And you just mentioned it. Now, not only is it value, but to the other side, to the company, they can play the long game and start thinking about how to recoup their investment. It's a hell of a lot better, easier to recoup your investment at $15 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's just take a cursory look at
Mhm.
the films that will be dropping, and let's discuss whether um it'd be worth it, the implications, are they going to make their money back, what's it
Mhm.
looking like. So the slate of films. Let's first start with the obvious one. Wonder Woman 1984
Right.
is the first of them. Then there's going to be the little things, which I know little about, ironically. Um, Judas and the Black Messiah. Those two things, I don't see them really forcing me to sign up. Although I can see a situation where after people have already signed up for Wonder Woman 84, they stay around,
Mhm.
right? That usually happens on streamers. You stay around, and then when you're just thinking of leaving, the next big thing like juices you back up, and you're like, all
Right.
right, this is
Right.
absolutely worth it. So Tom and Jerry, we discussed that one, right? We said that it actually looked like it should be on streaming.
Yeah.
Although I don't think that that's something that people would sign up to a streamer for, but it looks like it will add value. Like, okay, this is it's like par for the course. Do you agree with that?
I would agree with that, and I think that yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if it's something that suddenly turns the switch for people, but like Paul, who's on the pod with us many times, obviously one of our brothers, with his daughter, he could say to his wife, "Well, we just made a really good decision by getting HBO Max, and now look, we have this movie to watch with our daughter." So
Exactly.
yeah, it might not make the decision for him, but all of a sudden he can say, now I got family entertainment to go on with everything else that I'm doing. So yeah,
Mhm,
I would agree
mhm.
with you.
Now, a massive heavy hitter, Godzilla versus Kong. Now, this is
Yeah,
where
yeah.
the value proposition starts to shine, really starts to shine. Now, on its own, Godzilla versus Kong isn't like a $1 billion type of franchise.
Hmm.
It hasn't proven to be in the past, but it's something that's bound to do somewhere between 500 million and $1 billion, if the release date is right and it's lucky and it gets massive reviews and word of mouth, like. But normally, in a non-pandemic world, it should do about $500 million worldwide. Not US alone. So this is one that I can see attracting a lot of people. Like, and Jason Kilar has said that these movies are going to get the usual promotion. They're
Hmm.
going to get the usual massive promotion that you see everywhere. It's just going to be added that you can watch it on HBO Max day and
Hmm.
date.
Hmm.
So this is one that I'm really looking forward to see if it comes to any streaming platform close to me. It's one that I'm definitely like day one. The second it's available, I'll be watching it. What about you?
That's absolutely. I've been a a bit of an old school Godzilla nerd, and I even like some of the ones that are like kind of funnier, like the Son of Godzilla and stuff like that, which are kind of funny, and the guys running around in a rubber suit. But I liked the rebooted Godzilla movies that we've had so far, and I
Mhm.
liked Skull Island. I thought that was good. So yeah, this was definitely one of those movies that we had on our list to go to a theater and watch. So if you're telling me now all of a sudden I'm going to get that through HBO Max, at least for the first 30 days, sign me up. I think that's another, and that's a big budget, man. That's like, what is that, $100 and some odd million budget movie?
Yeah,
That's not a little
yeah,
movie. That's a big movie.
massive,
Yeah.
massive. Yeah. All right, the next on the list is Mortal Kombat. Like, dude, I've been quietly hyped and anticipating this one. Fingers crossed. Like, I like a lot of the casting decisions. There's some of the casting decisions that I'm really not happy with. But I like the overall team. And this one, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's funny because this is a big budget one, but it's also one that I can see streaming being a very good move for. Really, I feel it's one that once people get a taste of this, it's gonna be electric. What do you think about Mortal Kombat coming to streaming?
Yeah, James. I guess James Wan is the producer on this, right? And his stuff, people seem to gravitate towards. And
Hmm.
even to this day, there's still this desire to watch Mortal Kombat stuff. And what was the most recent animated flick that the three of us watched and we all loved? I think it was Scorpion's Revenge,
Ooh,
right?
Scorpion's Revenge,
It
bruh,
was good.
bruh.
It was good. It was great. I loved it, and I loved the bone crunching effects from the video games that they threw in there and stuff like that. And so there's definitely still a want for Mortal Kombat. But I agree with you. I wonder if there's like some people are thinking like, maybe I can wait for that one until it comes on streaming. Well, there you go. It's going to be there already. So I could see where you're coming from with that. I don't know how much this would have made. You're looking at a $600 or $700 million movie in theaters. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But having it as part of the HBO Max library, all of a sudden adds again that word value. Now you're looking at that. Are you telling me I'm getting a Mortal Kombat universe on HBO Max? Well, now we're talking. So now, what kind of, am I getting a sequel? Am I getting all kinds of, are we going to get into like, the Chronicles of Raiden or something here? So yeah, now we're talking. So I think it opens up a lot of possibilities here.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. We haven't seen anything from it,
Nope.
um, and so I don't know what to expect on that front. The release date was supposed to be the 15th of January, and it was delayed, and I'm not sure if we've heard anything concrete after that. Do you have an idea when it will be released?
Yes, actually, I was just looking at it a second ago, and let me see if I
Is
have it
it
in front of me.
April the 2nd?
Right now, I'm seeing, yeah, I'm seeing April, and it was, like you said, it was punted because of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's what they're saying, and right now, tentatively scheduled for April. So
April.
I got the
Okay.
yeah. So
Well, if it is, I mean, the good thing about them now knowing their fate is that they can start marketing, right? They can start, earnestly marketing it, being serious and knowing exactly what it is they're going to, because we haven't seen any images, we haven't seen any trailer, any, I really want to see that. They need to begin to, whet the appetite, so I'm super excited
marketing's going
about
to be important for a lot of these movies. I agree.
that. Absolutely, absolutely. Then there's those who wish me dead. I have no idea about that. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. What are your thoughts on
I'm with you on the first one. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know enough about it to really say anything about it. The Conjuring, though, I've been a fan of the Conjuring franchise. I
that?
like a good horror movie. I wouldn't say that this is deep psychological horror. It's more ghost story horror,
Hmm.
but that's
Hmm.
okay. I like it. I think they're well done. They don't just rely on jump scares. That was a movie that I was going to see in theaters if I was vaccinated and I felt comfortable to go back into
Hmm.
theaters. So yeah, that was a movie I had targeted for 2021,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to see that it's here.
Yeah. I that's not one I've seen in theaters. Although I highly respect the franchise. I think it's the best horror series. It's highbrow horror, right?
Yeah,
Horror done
yeah.
with a prestige eye, prestige taste, very tastefully done, well written, great acting performances. But I would not go to theaters to see this type of movie.
I got you.
I go to theaters to see more huge blockbusters, spectacle movies, or if I'm trying to support smaller movies.
I understand.
Um,
Yep.
and it just doesn't fall squarely into any of those defined boxes. So the next was In the Heights, not In the House, but In the Heights, which I don't know too much about. Then Space Jam: A New Legacy. This is very, very cool, interesting. Well, we had a brief conversation about this when we're prepping for this episode, and this one comes from LeBron James. We have a logo for it,
Hmm.
but we haven't seen any real like images, or we've also seen the Space Jam jersey design. It looks sweet. It's really cool. Gives me a little bit of nostalgia thinking about, the
Hmm.
Jordan jersey. I remember I had one, which was like made by the sport brand champion. Uh, and I was telling you that this movie is going to do a lot better than people are anticipating. It's going to be huge. It's going to be massive. And that has to do with the fact that obviously LeBron James is one of the biggest athletes, maybe the biggest athlete in the world right
Yeah, he's
now.
a superstar.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, he is like, I mean, him, people like Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, Messi. I
Hmm.
think that LeBron James is the biggest athlete in the world. So you're going to get that crowd. We're not talking about cinephiles and film lovers, just that crowd is going to be drawn to see it just based on that. Also, it's if it's marketed as a black film, as
Hmm.
something that black culture is offering, then you're going to have the same sort of hype and the same sort of allegiance and attraction to it that Black Panther did.
Right.
And if
Right.
they're smart, they would market it using a lot of like black culture and hip hop, of course, making it as all inclusive as Black Panther was. But I think that there is a very unique um, opportunity to market this in such a way that it will have powerful online viral viral traction, and that will turn into like huge numbers for it. I think that if this isn't like a mega hit, they dropped the ball.
Yeah, and I was looking it up before we started recording, and it's got $180 million budget. I mean, that's insane. So the budget is big. LeBron's in it, Don Cheadle's in it, and if you read the premise, everything you're saying is 100% right. This thing, I think it's the writings on the wall that this should be a hit. Especially you're going to watch LeBron and Bugs Bunny travel through the Warner Brothers film catalog. I mean, that just sounds like fun. that he's gonna team up with Bugs Bunny on the search for his son, and they're gonna travel through Warner Brothers movies both from the past and the
Wow.
present. I mean, that's just fun. So
It sounds like fun.
it should do well. So it's and like what you just said, by the way, too. In addition, not only to like the African American culture and everything with that, but in addition, I think there's a lot of nostalgia there too, because whether
I
you
forgot to mention that.
yeah, I just think I agree. That's the thing. Whether you liked Space Jam or not, I know Space. I watched it as a kid. Everybody watched Space Jam. It was so it's and I think there's something really fun about watching a guy like LeBron interact with Bugs Bunny and everything. There's just something really cool about it. So I think there's a huge nostalgia factor there too.
All right, very cool, very cool. That's one that if it came out in theaters, that's one I would see in theaters. I'll
Hmm.
probably see it as a double bill because that's something that I tend to do. I tend to if there are two movies I kind of like, I might kind of like put them together because I don't have time to go to movie theaters a couple times a week or every week.
Right.
That's one that I would definitely want to go to theaters to see as a double bill. Then the Suicide Squad, one
Yep.
that I would have gone to theaters to see. Um, and I think that this is a very this is this is like this is going to be good for the streamer
Hmm.
because obviously James Gunn is a legend and he's like a legacy icon over at Disney with Marvel, and obviously this is going to attract a lot of people who have strong allegiance and affinity for his filmmaking over on the Disney side to at least be curious to see what this is about. So I think that this is going to do very, very well for the streamer. What do you think?
I think everything you said is true, and the other part of it that I think is important. It seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like AT&T is positioning, saying HBO Max is going to be the go-to place for all DC. We are going to have a
Mm-hmm,
DC section, and it's going to be
mm-hmm,
the animated films. It's going to be the Snyderverse. It's going to be whatever the DCEU is, and it's going to be the CW at some point.
mm-hmm,
This is this is where everything is going to be. So you want to
mm-hmm.
watch the DC universe, you got to come to HBO Max in order to do it. So I think everything you said is 100% correct. It's just they're adding into this that now it's just like no matter what happens moving forward and theaters come back and all that everything, but the DC universe will exist on HBO Max.
That's incredible. That's incredible. They're building themselves a pretty formidable catalog over
Hmm.
there. Then next is a movie called Reminiscence. Have you ever heard of Reminiscence?
I don't know. I don't want to sit here and say that I know a ton about the movie. However, when I saw it in the list of movies earlier today, I took a look and I saw that it stars Hugh Jackman, who has become hands down one of my favorite actors. And I
Yep.
just, as a human being, I love him. As an actor, I think he's incredible. Rebecca Ferguson, Thandi Newton,
Yep.
Daniel Wu. It's got a great cast, and it is a science fiction slash drama film. So
Yep.
I wouldn't want to say that this was something that I had targeted a while ago, but when I was looking through the list and I learned a little bit more about it, this movie suddenly became a movie that I targeted. It's a smaller budget. It's got about a $65 million budget, I want to say. So it's not off the wall, but they're saying the right things when they're talking about this movie. So all of a sudden I got interested in this. So yeah, this one looks like a really good one.
Yeah, so let me tell you the reason it's one of my most anticipated movies, like period, going forward. If you ask me, what are the most anticipated movies? Obviously, the Snyder Cut is on there,
Mm-hmm.
Matrix 4, which we're going to talk about, Reminiscence is on there, and the reason why is that it's written, co-written, and directed by Lisa Joy Nolan,
Mm-hmm.
and she is the wife of Christopher Nolan's younger brother.
Nice. Nice.
And the movie is also written by him
Mm-hmm.
as well. And they're the showrunners and creators of Westworld, especially season
That's
one,
right.
season
Yeah.
one, season two. Season three is not. You can't really say season three is their
Mm-hmm.
has their soul in it. It was changed a little bit. So if you're gonna judge them, you can only judge them on season one and season two. And if you watch Westworld, you know that it's basically a Christopher Nolan type of creation,
Right.
but just this sort of highbrow, mind-bending, super intellectual sci-fi,
Mm-hmm.
modern sci-fi. And that's what this movie is. It's very high concept. I was obsessed with it at one point to the point where I started reading the script. Like the
Oh
script
wow.
actually like yeah, the script actually like won a bunch of awards and the script is available if you want to read it. But I stopped reading the script because I was like, I want to go into this fresh. It sounds so good.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's about a future world that's slightly dystopian. Um, if I can remember, the world is not completely crumbled, but there is environmental decay
Hmm.
to some degree. So sea levels have risen. Like places like Florida are completely submerged underwater, while places like New Orleans are, basically half underwater and half, above. So you have that set in the background, sort of like what was happening in Interstellar, where there was, environmental decay.
Hmm.
And then it's about um, people being able to access people's memories.
Yeah. See, I like that kind of stuff when they go into that. I know I was reading about how like he can he can let their clients access any memory that they've ever had.
Exactly.
Yeah, in the past. That's really cool.
Exactly. And I think Hugh Jackman's character is some sort of detective.
Hmm.
And what they do is that is his specialty is that I said, like they access memories to solve whatever mystery or whatever you want. So it's a classic film noir sort of structure. You have
Hmm.
a down on his luck detective, and in walks a femme fatale, and Hugh Jackman detective, and I'm forgetting her name, Rebecca Ferguson
Yep.
is the mysterious femme fatale with a shady past sort of
Hmm.
thing. So, uh, like basically, it's a Christopher Nolan movie. I'm just it's basically a Christopher Nolan movie by another name because if you've watched Westworld, the work they did on Westworld is Christopher Nolan level of
Yeah, I would
uh,
agree.
mind bending, the visuals, shooting on film, like the crazy stuff. Like so, honestly, like it had. I thought the movie had been shelved indefinitely, but hearing that's coming out in 21, I'm beyond hyped. Sorry that I went off on a tangent,
No,
but
please do.
I'm really glad to share that with our audience, guys. What does this sound like to you? Do a little bit of research on it. Holler back at us. Tell us if you're as excited for Reminiscence as I am. All
And
right.
we got to
So
tell
next,
Paul to do research on it too, because he's a big
yes,
sci-fi fan.
Paul will love this. This
Yeah.
will be right up his alley. All right. So next up is a Malignant, which I know little about. Do you know about Malignant?
*Malignant* is it's a James Wan horror film, right?
Okay,
So
okay,
yeah,
yes, yes. It's the one that's like a superhero but horror as well, right?
I believe so, and it's based
Yeah,
on an original story that he came up with, I
yeah,
believe.
yes, yes.
And it's
It's superhero and horror.
so this one looks like it was a little different. And I think it's Annabelle Wallace, Jake Abel, George Young. I want to say are in the cast. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so again, I'm one of those guys that I'm not going to sit here and say I love every little thing that James Wan does, but almost everything I've watched that he's been a part of is interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And with everything that he's dipped. This is not the first time. We just talked about the Conjuring universe. He created. He's dipped into horror before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in seeing this. I'm not going to sit here and say that all of a sudden that makes a decision on the streamer for me. Like, okay, that's why I would want to watch. That's why I'd want to get HBO Max. It's just something
Mm-hmm.
that for me increases the value. Here you go again. There's that whole
Absolutely,
conversation. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. I agree. Like same thing. It's not the sort of thing that would push me to get a streamer,
right.
but if I'm already signed up on a streamer and I get it, I'll be grateful for the added value, and I'll definitely give it a chance. So next up is one of the biggest, most hyped, most anticipated movies of the last couple of years, and that's Dune. This is one
Yeah.
that is being touted as a Lord of the Rings esque trilogy. Before the movie's been released, they've already greenlit spin-offs that were going to be on HBO Max, but it's quite serendipitous or fortuitous that Dune itself is joining its spin-offs on HBO Max. And this is one that people were going to go in droves to see in theaters. It got a splashy trailer that made a lot of waves, and this is one that if things were slow for HBO Max, this is going to push everything into hyperdrive.
Mm. Yeah, I know this is when you talk about like prestige sci-fi and people start bringing up, Blade Runner and the Alien franchise and keep going on and on and
Hmm.
how a lot of that stuff hasn't really found its way into mainstream theaters and into our consciousness. But this movie kept being talked about in that way, and I know part of it is because of Dennis and what he's able to do behind the camera. But people have been talking about the cast. They've been talking about the way it looks. The CGI looks like it's out of control. People love this story, and even there's a lot of people that haven't necessarily even read Dune. Maybe they've just seen the original. They saw the old school as some of the older versions of it. Now there's also a couple of comic versions that are out there as well. This movie I thought was going to do well no matter what. I could see, we've talked about the DC movies already. We're going to talk about another blockbuster in a couple minutes. This could be one of the handful that people would say this is the reason I'm getting HBO Max. Wonder Woman 84, Suicide Squad. Again, there's a couple of others out there. I think this is one of them that could be the one that would make the decision. I'm lucky enough to already have it, but if I didn't, those were the movies that I'd be talking about that would make me want to sign up, and Dune is one of them. So that's what I think. I think it's got to be in that conversation of prestige level, high level movie that if somebody's thinking about signing up for HBO Max, this is one of the movies that is there.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah, not much else to say about this. It's just it's gonna do numbers.
Yeah.
It's like if you doubted it on anything else, um, don't doubt it on this. I
Yeah, I
think
wouldn't doubt Dune.
so far that we've spoken, I think that Reminiscence is one that is a dark horse. I think Malignant is also a dark horse.
Could be.
Uh, yeah, but I think that Surefire, Dune, Surefire, Space Jam, that's
Mm-hmm.
Surefire. Even if they mess up their marketing and all that good stuff, it's Surefire gonna give him a boost.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah,
Suicide Squad also Surefire.
definitely.
Godzilla versus Kong, I'll say surefire-ish. Mortal Kombat is another one that's Mortal Kombat has a huge following. Mortal Kombat has a because think about the video game.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like whenever it comes out, it's like it's the most popular fighter in the
It's
entire
always a
world.
thing when it comes out.
It's always
Always.
a
Yeah.
massive thing and something that they're keeping alive. Like they keep on launching like new players and you know. All right, so then next up on our list, let's continue our the Many Saints of Newark, which I know nothing about. Then King Richard,
Mm-hmm.
it's from Will Smith, and this is
Yep.
story of Serena Williams and Venus Williams' father. So this one should be an awards contender. I'm not too sure how well this one will do because people don't tend to flock towards awards contenders. They tend not to be a huge draw for people. So it will depend on how it's marketed. So for example, if we think of like
Mm-hmm.
Hidden Figures did very well because it was celebrating Black women. So it was offering something that wasn't very that was unique, and there was a thirst for it. So if they can find a good angle to market this, I think it will draw a crowd. I'm expecting the quality to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Will Smith's work when he does
Right.
Anthony Prestige. Remember, In Pursuit of Happiness, the
So
recent
good.
film he did about CTE, the NFL, um,
Concussion.
concussion. Exactly. Like
Yeah.
he does a brilliant job. But the question is, are you going to get people to come see it? And that will be the job of marketing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I have to, on a side note, I have to say that I was actually happy with the Many Saints of Newark, probably because of my Jersey background and everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
it,
was,
it,
I mean,
it will be popular in New Jersey. I'm assuming. Maybe New York a little bit. Maybe.
but
Maybe.
what, the Sopranos is hugely popular, and this thing being a Sopranos prequel, being set in the late '60s, I guess, into the 1970s, and then they're going to have the backdrop of the race riots in the '60s, and then of course the tensions between the Italian Americans and the African Americans, and they're going to be talking about kind of the origins of the Soprano family. It's got a great cast. I mean that's one of those things just because like for me when The Sopranos was on it was like kind of like must watch TV. I wanted to see that show every week. So I immediately turned to this one. I don't know if there's other people like that out there like me, but for me I was like yeah, it's got the same writer, Chase is still a part of it, so is Connor. I just think that if it's in the same vein and it's done the right way, that could be really good.
Okay.
And then a very,
It,
oh, go ahead.
it, it, it does sound like it's a sort of thing that would be more of a hit if it was a series. To
I
me,
can
from
understand that. Yeah, I
about
can
the
understand.
sound like stuff like that, it tends to be that they're good, but it takes a while for word to spread. For people like, hey, you got to watch that, you got to watch that, and stuff like that tends to be more of a hit if it's like a series.
I can
But
understand
you
that.
never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
No, it's a good
Yeah.
point. It's a good point. I agree with you. And by the way, King Richard, like that was one of those that's another one that I wouldn't pretend like I knew a ton about before today when we started doing the research on it. Now my interest is piqued because of who's
Hmm.
involved. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that one that stands the possibility of being a goodie.
Absolutely. So the next one is Cry Matcho, which I know nothing about.
Nope.
I can't say that I do. And then last on the list, one of my most anticipated movies going forward, and one that I am equal parts nervous and equal parts excited about, and nervousness excited excitement equals anxiety. Is The Matrix 4. Yeah.
Woohoo.
Yeah, yeah. The Matrix means everything to me.
Hmm.
The Matrix is the movie that made me fall in love with cinema. Not fall in love with movies, fall in love with cinema. And I've always said it. We always get into our fraternal, you know, arguments and just joking as brothers. And you and Paul are huge Star Wars fans, and
Hmm.
I'm always making fun of you guys that Star Wars is the most overrated franchise in history, and trying to get you guys upset. And it never works for you, but it always works on Paul. But I've wanted to see the Matrix franchise continue and live on, and that's partly what I'm excited about this about. I am excited because it's a continuation, but at the same time, I also want a continuation that is in the same world, runs parallel to the story of Neo and Morpheus and Trinity,
Hmm.
but doesn't involve Neo and Morpheus and Trinity and Neo. But this one is going to follow Trinity and Neo, and I have no idea how it makes any sense. I'm kind of sad because one of my favorite characters, or even my favorite character, to be sincere, is Morpheus, and
Right.
he's not going to be this one. He's not.
That's strange.
And I think there was a role for him, but due to time constraints, he wasn't able to. But that's because Yahya Abdul-Mateen is playing a younger Morpheus.
Now that's interesting. Before we talk about anything else with Matrix Four, and I'm with you. I'm excited because well, I'll get into it anyway. So I'm excited as well because I think that the Matrix, like you said, it's your Star Wars, and one of the coolest things about Star Wars sometimes isn't even the nine main movies. It's the universe that surrounds Star Wars. Clone Wars or the novels that came out for a long time, and Star Wars
Mhm.
Rebels, and now the Mandalorian and everything. It's the whole epic everything about that world, that universe that George Lucas started, and then now even other creators have jumped in and expanded on. And that's one of the coolest things about the Matrix. Like the Animatrix is fantastic. It's so good.
Mhm.
The Animatrix is so good.
Mhm.
There's so many
Absolutely.
stories. I just love it. I
Yeah.
think it's great.
Yeah.
But there's
I have I
all.
have the I have the Animatrix. I have the comics. Like I
Mhm.
have two Matrix comics. And I read them like every year, along with like Watchmen. Yeah. I
Because it's the universe that surrounds it, like I said, is so good. There's so many directions they could go. So the question I have, spoiler alert for anybody that has not seen the Matrix trilogy, and if you haven't, what's wrong with you? But spoiler
exactly.
alert.
Hello.
um, Based on the
Yeah.
ending of the third one, how are Trinity and Neo coming back?
All
How are
right. I
they?
have a theory.
Okay, go for it.
I have a theory, and here's the theory. So if Yahya Abdul-Mateen is playing a younger Morpheus,
Hmm.
and if actually Lawrence Fishburne is not in this film at all. It means that, and he was supposed to be. It means that even if he was in the film, it would have been a very small role, like
Right. Right.
tiny. Uh, and so I think that this is a prequel to The Matrix,
Hmm.
and it's either it's a prequel to The Matrix, or it comes after. But one of the things that was a prominent uh, feature of those films, a prominent sort of philosophical touchstone,
Hmm.
was the karmic cycle, the
It's
death
true.
rebirth
Yeah.
cycle.
Hmm.
So I think that it's either young Morpheus is reborn, or Trinity and Neo are a different version of themselves before. But I think that they're meeting at a particular point where Morpheus is young
Hmm.
and Trinity and Neo are advanced. Because in the Matrix, Neo died.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is not going to be Neo. And Trinity also died. And
She died in
also,
Revolutions
don't
too.
forget, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Trinity died. And
Yeah.
Trinity, she's not a metahuman. There's nothing special about her apart
Hmm.
from, her will and her heroism. She's not a supernatural being like Neo is.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking that this is a prequel, and yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm
it's
thinking.
interesting if they go that way. I mean, the Matrix Revolutions. Remember when the child program was talking with the Oracle at the end of that movie? They kind of remember they left it open. Like, do you think we'll ever see Neo again? And the Oracle was pretty positive that we would.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I think
so they could go either. You're right. They could go either way. Maybe it's a rebooted version. They did say how long will this truce last, and they're like, however long it's meant to last. That was the answer. So that the truce between the machines and the humans, it will just last however long it's supposed to last. So maybe the truce is over at this point. I don't know, but you're right. There's a lot of different directions they could go in, and I trust. It's only one of the Wachowskis coming back, right? It's not both of them. I think it's only one of the Wachowskis, right? I think
yes, it's
Lana.
only yes,
Yeah.
I think it's Lana.
Yeah.
It's Lana.
Okay.
I think I think she's the only one.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's yeah. I think I'm not sure how that's part of where my anxiety is coming from, because I would have expected that they do a story that's parallel
Yeah.
to the Matrix, not a continuation.
Hmm.
And to be very honest, I've not been too happy with the work that the Wachowski sisters have done post the Matrix
Hmm.
trilogy, and I do like the trilogy. I love the trilogy. I look at it all as one story,
It is.
uh,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sequels, um, and I haven't really liked what they've done. So I'm quite nervous. I won't lie. I would not lie. I'm quite nervous. I hope it's not forced. I hope it's not forced. But regardless, it's going to be a hit for them. The
Yeah.
question is, how big of a hit will it be? That's the question.
I think it does fall into, and you know what, it's going to be difficult because without some of the United States box office numbers for all of the movies that we mentioned are going to get eaten in, somehow you got to think about HBO Max. So the actual quote unquote box office numbers will be
Mhm.
less. International box office will definitely be more important. But in terms of the long game, which we can talk about later, they're looking at HBO Max as the long game. But I think Matrix, I would say Wonder Woman 84. You said Suicide Squad, and I agree with you. You got to throw Conjuring in there, and maybe Godzilla versus Kong, Space Jam. I think those are your quote unquote tent poles. I think those are the movies that are drawing a ton of people in, and the rest of these things that we've mentioned, and I could be wrong, will keep them in. Like like Matrix is definitely one of those movies that I think is in the Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman 84 category, Dune category, where you're
Mhm.
saying there's a shit ton of people that like the Matrix, a shit ton, and I could see, and there's been a lot of chatter about this movie online, so I could see this being one of the movies that are like, well, if I'm making the decision to go with HBO Max, Matrix 4 is one of those movies. I could see it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I could see it.
No. I got you. So that was a list of 17 movies, and
Mhm.
as Jason Kilar said in his letter, it kind of works out to a movie, an exciting movie coming to the streamer every 3 weeks,
Yep.
and
Yep.
this is exactly what Netflix has been doing. They also have that sort of release strategy where every month you're getting like an event, a series,
Right.
and an original film. So HBO Max have accelerated into the future, and they're going to be offering the type of content
Mhm.
that Netflix does. They're basically on par now, and this is aside from all the original stuff that's coming to them. And the original stuff, there's stuff to be for example, we haven't even talked about Zack Snyder's Justice League, which
Right.
is like massive. Which is so. It's one question I have for you, and
Mhm.
I think you're a good person to ask because you don't have the same biases that I do.
Mhm.
In terms of these 17 original features that we've talked about, these huge motion pictures, where would you rank? And let's say 18, if we include Wonder Woman,
Mhm.
where would you rank Zack Snyder's Justice League for people who aren't, crazy about it like I am, in terms of
Hmm.
event status and draw? So
Ye-
what would you put as number one? And let's go down from there, and then we'll wrap up our conversation with that.
So is the Snyder Cut question the first question? If that's the first question,
It's where would you slot it?
I think if we were having this conversation last year, I might put it in a different area. But because it's become more of like a pop culture thing, and more people have spoken about it in a positive way, I think you have to place it in the upper echelon at this point because even my hardcore MCU friends that hate most of what they saw in the old DCU still want to see it. They
Mm,
still are like,
mhm,
because they didn't like Justice League. So they're
mhm,
like, whatever we're going to get, I have to watch it because I either want to watch it to see what all the hype is about, or I want to watch it because I want to see a better movie. I want to see a better
mhm,
movie than what I saw. I think you have to put it in the upper echelon. On a personal level, I'm not going to necessarily say it's number one, but it's
mhm,
got to be in the upper echelon because I really want to see Wonder Woman 84. That's a big
mhm,
one for me.
mhm.
And I
Okay.
really want to see Dune, and I'm really
Mhm,
excited about The Conjuring. But
mhm,
once you start getting into now you're talking about, for me, the Snyder Cut is right there. So now it's top
mhm,
five then. So
mhm.
for me, it's
Yeah.
one of the top five. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's and that could be because look, I'm a comic book fan, I'm a superhero fan. I liked Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel. So, but I'm not in the Snyder Cut movement, if that makes sense. I'm not part of the overall movement. I wasn't fighting for it from the very beginning. So,
Mhm,
but yeah, I would definitely say, and then we can rank these a little bit more if you wanted to. But I would think, based on my conversations with like comic book people and stuff like that, I think it has moved from a fringe thing to a much more central pop culture conversation now. People I
mhm.
talk to who didn't have a effing clue what the Snyder Cut was a year ago, they know what it is now. They
Mm,
know what it is now. That comment, and
yeah.
what, and they might even want to hate watch it, but they want to watch it.
Mhm. But they want to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think that it's definitely in the top. I wouldn't put it as the top. Obviously, it's my it's in my top. My
Right.
top would
It's
be the
yours. Yeah.
Snyder Cut,
Yeah.
then Reminiscence, then Mortal Kombat, like that. But in terms of being very objective, I'm looking at these, and I'm not. Is it objective to say that in terms of first, Wonder Woman 1984 is the biggest one.
I think
It's
that
a big
is.
well.
Yeah, I
If
think
we
that
if we're
is.
saying the 18, then next I'd say June.
See, I can see that. I can see that.
I think
Yeah,
the push they're gonna give Dune is going to be ridiculous.
the hype
Now
we've seen is in full steam right now.
it's in
I mean,
full.
yeah.
They're not playing around with what they want it to be. Now
Hmm.
will it achieve that? I don't know, but I'm talking about the atmosphere that's going to be around it.
Hmm.
They're going to bludgeon us with marketing, with critics and blogs and everybody telling you that it's the greatest thing and you have to watch it. Like they're going to bludgeon us.
Hmm.
But I think that and then I think that then we're talking about the Snyder cut. I
Hmm.
think that also is going to get like a lot of hype. So I'm putting Dune and the Snyder cut about the same. then the Suicide Squad and Mortal Kombat and
I
Space.
you don't think Matrix 4 is up there? See,
Oh
I
no! Oh,
wonder.
sorry, I forgot. No, so Matrix. Yeah,
Yeah, because I wonder if
it's
Matrix
it's
4.
tough.
It is tough. I agree with you because I still think Matrix 4 I might be looking at this selfishly, but I add Conjuring into that too, only because there's not too many prestige horror franchises out there right now, and that one has a
But
name.
I don't know how. Yeah, but no, I don't really know. Those movies they do well, but they do well for horror.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. You make a good point. It's not like they're banging out $800 million. Yeah,
Exactly. Like they
yeah.
do well for horror. Like the Suicide Squad is going to do numbers.
I think it's going to bank.
Mortal Kombat is going to do numbers. The Matrix just based on imagine the marketing for the Matrix and they say take the red pill. Oh, it's over, man. That's all they have to tell people. It's time to take the red pill again. Oh, people are like, I mean, come on, like that's such a part of pop culture. Like the amount of nostalgia, like people, it's like it's not
Mhm.
Star Wars, but it's near Star Wars level fanaticism when it comes to the Matrix movies.
I
Like
think so.
people, yeah,
Yeah,
like people do not play around when it comes to like the Matrix. It's a thing.
dude,
It's so crazy. It's taken them so long to bring it back,
and there's
which
and
might be
that's I agree, and I think there's a good. I think there's positive nostalgia there too. There's definitely positive nostalgia. Like sometimes
yeah.
we say on this podcast, like a lot of like studios will lean too far into nostalgia, and we think it's a negative thing. But it's been so long. I think they can lean positively into stuff like the red pill and stuff like, do you even want to know what the Matrix is? Like stuff like that. Like that,
Mhm.
I absolutely think that they can lean into things like that, and it will bring people back, and it will interest newer people. I would agree with
Absolutely,
that. I think we're
absolutely.
I think it's unanimous though. I think at least Wonder Woman 84 has to be that's got to be the number one.
Yeah, that's definitely number one. Then I'd say Dune, Snyder Cut, then or I would say maybe Snyder Cut even above Dune.
It's
And
possible.
if I was going to say, I'll say Wonder Woman 84, Snyder Cut, mm, Matrix 4, Dune. No, Matrix 4. Mm, mm,
Maybe because Matrix, Dune has a name, but Matrix still has a name. At the end
yeah,
of the day,
that's
it
the thing.
still has a
I'm
name.
to me, Dune looks just more grand and just more like and the actors that they have in it, like and the way
Hmm.
people have been talking about it, even before they people got any images, there's been a rabid thirst and hunger for it. So Dune is, as much as I love the Matrix, uh, I'd say Dune, then Matrix 4,
Hmm.
then the Suicide Squad, then Mortal Kombat, then Godzilla versus Kong.
And Space Jam maybe after that.
Yes, no, well, maybe yes. Then Space Jam. Hmm.
I think Space Jam above Godzilla though. See, I'm
Yeah,
putting it
yeah.
above Godzilla
I'd agree with you there. Yeah,
because of the
Space Jam.
family fare.
Yes,
LeBron being as awesome as he is, and
yes.
it's
And
you know
LeBron's a good actor. I hope you know.
actually I don't. I'm
He
serious. I
is.
don't.
Yeah. No, he's a good actor. He is. He's actually been. Have you seen his commercials?
Well,
First
yeah,
off,
yeah. I've seen the
okay,
commercials.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's first. But he's actually been in. There's a rom com that he was in, where he had a cameo role. He's a good actor.
Okay,
Like trust me.
that's cool.
Like I'm. He obviously he doesn't have the range that professional actors have.
Uh-huh.
But LeBron, he's not like Michael Jordan. He's a good actor. He's
See,
gonna
that's
hold his own.
yeah, because that's like the original Space Jam. It's a fun movie, but Michael Jordan was wooden. He's wooden.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah. But we all
yeah,
expected it. It was like
yeah.
okay, yeah,
It's
he can't act,
wooden.
but at least we get to see Michael Jordan. You know.
But LeBron's got some charisma.
Yes,
So
Michael.
yeah,
LeBron can act. He can act. Like I'm not
that's
even
interesting.
joking now. Yeah,
That is
I'm not
really
even like
interesting.
a huge LeBron fan or anything like that. He can act
No, that's
objectively.
really interesting.
Yeah.
I think you're right though. You have to put I think you have to put the three DC movies in the upper echelon just
Yeah,
because we're
because I mean,
living in
it's
a
the age of
comic book.
superheroes.
Exactly.
It's the
Exactly.
age of heroes. Like,
It's
just
you
you
know,
can't
you gotta. You gotta.
like
And
Disney
if we're
just is
putting
gonna
them
kill it with everything that they drop. Like, you can see the rabid craziness that's going on
Jeff,
over casting news for Falcon and the Winter Soldier
oh,
and how
Hawkeye.
it's
Yep.
connected to Black Widow and what's going to be happening with WandaVision. Like it's the age of heroes. That's
It
it.
is. And I think it's I could be wrong, but I think for this slate, for the 2021 slate, if this is it, I think it's Wonder Woman 84, Snyder Cut, Suicide Squad. I think it goes that.
Yeah,
I think that's how
yeah.
it goes. But I can't see the three of them doing bad numbers. I can't.
No,
I can't.
they won't. They won't. And one thing I'll say is that I know, like, depending on your DC versus Marvel allegiance, some
Yeah.
people, have an issue with James Gunn or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Like, he knows how to make movies. And what
Yeah.
I mean by that is that even if you don't like his material, he's gonna make movies that people who have no idea about, oh, I prefer Marvel or I prefer DC, are gonna enjoy.
Hmm.
That's what you get from him. There's a baseline of success that you're gonna get from him.
Yeah.
And so people who are, I know, I've heard people say, oh, it's gonna be trash, or I'm not gonna like it, or you
Hmm.
might not, but it's gonna do numbers for HBO Max.
I think it will.
That's facts.
I think it will. And
Yeah.
the big thing about everything that we talk to, whether we're going to move on to another topic or anything, I think the big thing that everything we spoke about tonight is you just mentioned at the beginning. This is for the moment a USA only thing, correct? So,
Mhm.
um, and the international box office has become so much more important in recent years, and it used to just be the USA was it. You need to focus on that, and then the rest of the world trickled in and could boost your numbers. Now, like a movie like Warcraft did gangbusters in China. A movie makes 400 and some odd $1 million. It did like nothing in the United States. So, the international box office is so much more important than it was before. This positions HBO Max to have the best of both worlds. They can start seriously doubling down on their direct to consumer, not giving up the relationship that they have with the theaters. And also, they can continue to concentrate on the international box office where they are going to continue to make money. So, no matter what, I've complained about Warner Brothers in the past and saying the proverbial they throw shit against the wall to see if it
Yeah,
sticks. This coming from, if it's coming from Kalar, and I guess it
and
is,
it is.
this is a legit strategy. This is an actual
Absolutely.
strategy.
Yeah,
So yeah, and it's a good one. I think it's looking years down the road. This is not
yeah,
short term shit to get a short term gain. No, this is playing chess over checkers.
absolutely.
Yep.
And yeah, with that, I think we can wrap it up on that topic. We can talk about it
Sure.
for forever.
Go another 2 hours.
But yeah, but let's move on, and we'll end by talking about um Wonder Woman's runtime. So runtime confirmed. It's a 2.5 hour movie. What do you think about it being 2.5 hours? Does that make you happier or less happy than before? What's the deal?
Actually, I like it a little bit better. Infinity War runs 2 hours and 40 minutes, and of course, everybody made a big deal over Endgame being a little over 3 hours. And I think Suicide Squad, the first one, was like 123 minutes, so it's a little over 2 hours. Shazam is a little over 2 hours. So it doesn't, just because the movie's a little longer doesn't necessarily tell you it's suddenly going to be great. But what I like about that is, because sometimes we've seen shorter movies that are cut well. The Winter Soldier still is probably one of the best MCU movies, and it's not 2.5 hours. It's just cut very
Mm-hmm,
well.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, so, but there was a lot of fear with this movie that it was going to be just very breezy. They were kind of gloss over a lot of stuff. I don't expect it to be as deep as BVS or Man of Steel or even the first Wonder Woman, but this does tell me that they're gonna concentrate a little bit more on the characterization and I think especially with Barbara, with Cheetah, I don't want to see that character done dirty. I want to see that character done right. I told you
mm-hmm,
guys before I had some nervousness about Kristen Wiig, and I'm more confident after seeing her in the trailers now that it's not just going to be full comedy with her. So,
mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's a positive thing. I do, but it could be. I could be wrong, man. It could go the other way, and the extra half hour doesn't do anything for the movie. But I think it's positive.
Yeah, yeah. I think with all the characters that are involved, I think that it's pretty much about how much I expected it to be. Think
Right.
about it. Obviously, you got two villains, Max
Yeah.
Lord.
Yep.
Then you got Barbara Minerva and Cheetah. That's a whole arc.
That's a whole ass movie
That's a
right
whole
there.
arc.
Yeah.
It's the whole arc. Then you got Chris Pine coming back, which is
Hmm.
another thing. That's going to be a major thing. Then also she goes back to Themyscira for beat or
Interesting.
maybe more.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on in this movie, and I'm glad about the runtime. To me, that's about the length of a film that I like. I like something that's about 220 to 230.
Hmm.
Then if it's going to be like a huge epic like your end games, like your Watchmen, Batman v Superman,
Hmm.
then 3 hours. Let's start talking 3 hours and above.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll just strap and embrace brace for impact. um, but that makes me actually even anticipate it more.
Hmm.
If I heard that it was just 2 hours, I would have, my immediate assumption for something that's just 2 hours is that it's light, it's fluffy, it's
Hmm.
just airy and breezy, doesn't have a lot of meat on it. But with 2 hours and 30 minutes, sounds robust, meat. It sounds thick,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it's actually making me anticipate it even a bit more. So that's our episode of ENN for the day. Guys, I'd like to hear what you guys think about these topics that we discussed. What do you think about HBO Max's daring move? Do you think it will pay off for them? Which movies on there are you anticipating? Do you prefer to watch movies at home or in theater? Does it depend on the movie? Yeah, chat with us. We talk back.
Hmm.
And with that, Christian, do you have anything else to say, or do you just want to say goodbye to the people?
No, I agree with you. I want to hear what other people, what they're looking forward to in that group. I really want to hear what people, what sparked them, in addition to the ones that we all know. Snyder Cut, Wonder Woman 84,
Mhm.
Dune, but what else in there definitely spoke to people, and we want to hear that because we want to hear what you're looking forward to as well. Hey, everybody, stay safe, be careful out there. 2020 is still insane. You can hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at the same place. I'm at chart6363.
Yeah, and I've been yours truly, Lupe. You can find me on Twitter at Live Love Lupe. You can find me on Vero at Live Love Lupe as well. Thanks for listening to this episode of the E&M podcast. And until next time, stay exiled.